You have never, in your entire life, seen your own face. Not really. Only a reflection, a copy, a reversed image in glass. But what if the glass didn't exist? Here's the question nobody asks about ancient humans. Did they know what they looked like? And I don't mean vaguely, I mean, did they know the shape of their own face? The color of their own eyes? Whether they were considered attractive or terrifying by their own standards? Because here's the thing that should bother you. There is a moment in human history where, for the very first time, someone looked into a still pool of water and saw a face staring back at them, and they had absolutely no idea whose face it was. We'll come back to that moment, because what they did next tells us something deeply strange about what it means to be human. Most people assume ancient humans just looked in water, problem solved. But think about where ancient humans actually lived. Rivers, moving, constantly rippling, distorted. You'd see a blurry, shaking thing that vaguely had a head. The reflection ancient humans actually saw was dim. Psychologists who study this say that before true mirrors, people had only a vague idea of their own appearance. And vague is being generous. It was probably closer to a moving blur than an actual face. So for hundreds of thousands of years, the people walking around this planet had almost no accurate picture of what they looked like, which raises a genuinely disturbing question. Ancient humans were already painting their bodies with red ochre. That's a fact. Archaeologists found the evidence in Kenya. They were decorating themselves, marking their skin, changing how they looked, for 250,000 years before mirrors existed. But here's the part that breaks your brain. Most of that body art, they couldn't see it. The back of their neck, their shoulders, the top of their head. Think about that. They cared deeply about how they looked, and had almost no way to verify it. Their own appearance only existed in other people's reactions to them. Here's a psychological fact that should genuinely unsettle you. The only faces ancient humans ever saw clearly were other people's faces, never their own. This means they built their entire understanding of what a human face was from everyone except themselves. When scientists today test self-awareness in animals, they use something called the mirror test. They put a mark on an animal's forehead, show it a mirror, and watch if it reaches up to touch the mark on its own face. Ancient humans had that same brain, that same drive, that same hunger to know what they looked like, and nothing to point it at. But then something happened. About 40,000 years ago, ancient humans started going deep into caves, in the dark, with torches, and they started pressing their hands against the walls. They blew pigment around their hands, leaving a stencil, a silhouette, a record of their physical presence. This is the closest prehistoric humans ever got to a self-portrait, and archaeologists have now confirmed something extraordinary. Some of these hand stencils are over 66,000 years old, made not by us, but by Neanderthals, a different species of human entirely. The urge to say, I was here, this is me. But here's where it gets genuinely disturbing. In one cave in France, Grotte de Gargas, there are 231 hand stencils on the walls. 114 of them are missing fingers, not from one person, from dozens. Researchers now believe some of those people deliberately cut off their own fingers as part of a ritual. Their only attempt at a self-portrait was a mutilated hand pressed in the dark, 8,000 years ago. Çatal Hüyük, Turkey. Someone had an idea. Take obsidian, volcanic glass, polish it smooth, hold it up. And for the first time in human history, a person saw their own face clearly. Think about what that moment was. You have never not known what you look like. There has never been a day in your life where you couldn't find a mirror, a phone screen, a shop window. But for that person, this was the first time, after hundreds of thousands of years of blur and ripple and guesswork, suddenly a clear, still accurate image of their own face. And what did ancient humans do with this incredible technology? They buried it with their dead. Women were buried with them in their hands, in graves, because the first mirror wasn't a grooming tool. It was a sacred object, a spiritual doorway. Mirrors were used not to check your hair, but to try to see into other worlds, speak to ancestors, or receive divine knowledge. The first time humans could truly see themselves, they looked straight through themselves, trying to see something beyond. Remember the moment I opened with? Someone, for the first time, looking into a still pool of water and seeing a face staring back, not knowing whose it was. Here's what actually might have happened in that moment. They probably didn't think, "That's me." They likely thought it was something else. A spirit, another being living inside the water, something watching them back. Almost every ancient culture has myths about reflections being dangerous. Your reflection is your soul. Looking too long traps you. Breaking a reflective surface brings misfortune. These aren't random superstitions. They're the cultural memory of a species that, for the first time, encountered its own face and had no framework to understand what it was seeing. The myth of Narcissus, falling in love with his own reflection until it consumed him. There is a version of me that I have never met. Here's the thing that stays with me about all of this. For almost all of human history, your sense of self wasn't built around your face. It was built around your body and motion, your hands, your strength, your smell, your voice, how others treated you, what marks you left on the world. Ancient humans didn't look inward through a reflection. That hand on the cave wall 66,000 years ago isn't vanity. It isn't art for art's sake. It's someone saying, "I exist. I was here, even if I can never see my own face." And in a way, that's more human than anything we do in front of a mirror today. So next time you walk past a mirror, stop for 1 second. Because you're doing something that was impossible for 99% of human history. You're seeing yourself the way other people see you. And the question ancient humans lived and died without ever answering, you answer it every single morning.